Trina, and this is my July wrap-up. Before I get into the books, I'm going to start out with my booktuber shout-out, and then I will check in with my TBR for the month and see how I did on that, and then I will move into the individual book reviews. But yeah, let's start off with the shout-out, and usually I've been doing a one shout-out for a channel that I discovered within this past month, but I'm actually going to do 3 today. The first of those is a channel that I did discover in July. I've really been enjoying her videos, and that is A Basket Casey Reads. And I just love her videos. She's really bubbly, and I love the decorations on her bookshelf, and I love the way that she talks about books, and she's so friendly. The second booktuber I want to give a shout out to is Sarah without an H. I'm sure you guys have heard about her already because everybody went crazy for her Top 5 Wednesday video for the characters that you want to drown, and I have been watching Sarah since last month, but this month we started communicating a lot more, so I really appreciated getting to know her through comments, through Twitter, and I really love her channel. She's so creative. I also kind of want to take a minute to mention the Jordan Journals. I have been following her channel for several months now, so it's not a new to me channel, but I've been loving her videos consistently. I love the way that she talks about books. She's done a lot of reviews and tags. She does Top 5 Wednesdays. She's reading a lot of really popular books. I love Jordan's videos. When I watch them, it feels like you're just sitting down and chatting with a friend. All 3 of these ladies are amazing creators, and I really hope that you will check out their channels. So now let's check in with what my July TBR was supposed to be. See, I did get to 5 of the 8 books that I wanted to read this month, and I did make it halfway through A Storm of Swords, but I didn't finish it, so it doesn't really count. This month I did read a total of 10 things. I read 7 books and 3 graphic novels, and I read 2 2-star books, 4 3-star books, 3 4-star books, and 1 5-star book. And I did notice that I didn't do a full video review on any of these books, so if you would like to hear more thoughts about any of them in particular, please let me know in the comments. I will be doing this like I have been the past couple of months, where I start at the bottom, my least favorite book of the month, and then work my way up to my favorite book of the month. The first of my 2-star reads this month was the graphic novel This One Summer, written by Mariko Tamaki and illustrated by Jillian Tamaki. This is a YA graphic novel. We have 2 really young girls that always vacation every summer at the same lake, and this one summer that they're there is some stuff going on with their parents and also with some of the teenagers in the community, and they're kind of observing the drama that's going on. It seems almost like a memoir, like biographical. Our characters, they were only observing problems and nothing was actually happening with them, and because they were observing, they didn't really get to see a conclusion to the issues that were being brought up. I couldn't find the story, I couldn't find the character growth, so I personally didn't enjoy this one. But if you like an atmospheric graphic novel that's not action-packed, if you want something more contemporary, if you do like the memoir style graphic novels, this definitely would appeal to other readers. The next book I gave 2 stars to this month was Paper Towns by John Green. This book is a YA contemporary novel, kind of a mystery, where we have our main character Quentin, who is basically the quintessential geeky outcast loser guy, and he lives across the street from the manic pixie dream girl Margot, and one night she sneaks into his bedroom and whisks him away on this epic adventure throughout town, and the next day she has disappeared, and it's not clear if she ran away or if she's missing. But then Quentin starts to find some clues that he thinks she might have left behind for him, and he spends the rest of the book trying to figure out what the clues mean and if they could possibly lead him to finding her. Believe it or not, I really liked the message that the book was trying to convey about people and what our expectations are about people, and the story arc really reflected the message that it was saying, because the ending is a little bit disappointing. That's one of the biggest complaints I've heard about this book, but that was the intention. I feel like the ending reflected what Quentin was learning about people. So if we were expecting this book to have a great ending and it let us down, that's how life is sometimes. So I can appreciate the book for what it was trying to say. However, there were just more things that bugged me in this book than things that I really loved about it. The narrative was just really annoying. The characters were annoying. I just could not deal with some of the teenage boy behavior that was in this book. It was so grating on my nerves. I almost wanted to put the book down a few times. It's very teenagery, but there's a good message there, so I don't completely hate it. 2-star rating for me just simply means it's okay. Didn't wow me, don't absolutely hate it though. Now moving into my 3-star ratings, I gave 3 stars to The Archived by Victoria Schwab. This is a YA paranormal story. When people die, their body and their mind are archived in this like afterworld library, and our main character Mackenzie is a keeper, which means that she basically patrols the in-between world between living and the dead, and if the dead ever wake up and try to get out, it's her job to make sure that they don't make it back into the real world. And in the course of the book, she starts finding some people in the in-between that aren't really supposed to be there, and there's no record of them in the archive, so there's a little bit of mystery to it. I read this with Kayla Rain, and she did enjoy it a lot more than I did. I rated it 3 stars because this book was just very middle of the road for me. I love Victoria Schwab's writing in her other 2 books, but I found that the same quality that I really fell in love with about her writing was kind of absent from this one. She created a really imaginative world, but it was a little bit more difficult for me to get into. A lot of the mystery behind it was pretty predictable, and also I felt like the world building was just kind of eh. Like, she created a great world with this archive. She really explained what the archive does, but I never really fully understood why it even existed. Like, I don't know, like they were there to make sure that the dead were preserved, but the dead were never ever allowed to wake up or to have anything done with them, so I guess I just didn't get that aspect of it. But it is very unique, it's very visual, and there is a character that I really loved. I loved the character Wesley. Wesley was snarky, and he was so atypical. He has like dark spiky black hair, and he wears black eyeliner, and I just love seeing kind of the alternative to the stereotypical YA hero. Next, I read The Winter's Crime by Marie Rudkowski and also rated it 3 stars. This is book number 2 in the Winter's trilogy. This series is a YA fantasy series, and it is a fantasy world without magic. It has a lot of political intrigue, and the main story of the first book is that Kestrel is a general's daughter, and when she reaches a certain age, she has to either join the army or get married, and she's not ready to do either one of them. But then one day in the marketplace, she ends up bidding for a slave, and they kind of have this flirtation, and the swoon is just off the pages. They have so much chemistry. The Winter's Crime as a second book, I kind of didn't really see what point it had. It felt like a lot of filler. The end of it did change things, but the majority of this book, I just felt like not much was really happening. It just didn't live up to the first book for me, although I'm really looking forward to book number 3. Don't get me wrong, I still love this series, even though book 2 was just kind of middle of the road for me. The next 3-star book that I read this month was Vanishing Girls by Lauren Oliver. And this is a YA mystery. I don't even want to tell you what it's about. It's about 2 sisters, and there are some girls in the town going missing. That's all I want you to know, because that's really all I knew, and the book was just a surprise. I already read this book with Sarah Ella, and I really enjoyed the experience of this book. Like, I probably had a 5-star reading experience because the plot twist was like, what even? And I loved dissecting it with Sarah Ella and reading it with a friend. However, we both predicted the plot twist like way early on. But I don't know that everyone would pick up on the clues the same way that I would. Sarah Ella and I, we don't really know if everyone would catch on to it. If you've read a lot of thrillers, I don't know, you might guess it. But aside from guessing what the twist was gonna be, there were kind of 2 or 3 mysteries kind of running together, and then there was a dual point of view. There's the one main mystery that's happening, and it was done very well. I absolutely loved it, but some of the different sections of the narrative and some of the things that it was jumping around to, I just felt like they could have been taken out and the story wouldn't have suffered at all. So felt like there was a lot of unnecessary stuff in this book. I really enjoyed the reading experience, but again, kind of middle of the road. I know Sarah Ella did like it a lot better than I did. My next 3-star rated read of the month is the graphic novel Saga Volume 2, written by Brian K. Vaughan and illustrated by Fiona Staples. These are adult sci-fi fantasy. It's about a space war, and we have 2 characters from different enemy planets who have fallen in love, and they've had a baby together, and now they are on the run because one of these planets' royalty is trying to hunt them down. I read Volume 1 in June, and it is in my wrap-up if you want to know what I liked and disliked about Volume 1. I did have trouble getting into Volume 1, and the same pretty much for Volume 2. There is a lot of gratuitous nudity and violence in these graphic novels that I think that they just don't add anything of value to the story being told. It seems like it was going just for a shock value. And after reading volume 2, I did pick up volumes 3 and 4, and I actually rated both of these 4 stars. I was enjoying the story a lot more by this point. I kept finding myself being disappointed in the characters and what they were getting up to, and I realized that if I'm disappointed in them, that means I care about them. So I am invested in the characters by now. It is a very well crafted story, but I just found it a little bit difficult to get into. It does have very mature content and illustrations, but if that's something that you're okay with and you like sci-fi fantasy and you want to check out a new graphic novel, I would recommend the series. The next book I read in July was Crushed by Sarah Shepard, and I gave this one 4 stars as well. This is book number 13 in the Pretty Little Liars series, which is a YA mystery series, and the story follows 4 friends in high school who have started getting texts from someone claiming to be their friend who went missing in middle school, and no one knew if she had ran away, was kidnapped, was killed, and now they're receiving text messages from someone claiming to be her, who is threatening to reveal all of their dirty little secrets. This is a 16 book long series, but there are actually 3 different story arcs, so you can read just one chunk of the series at a time. The last 4 books I read, I kind of was about, but Crushed I thought was a pretty solid entry. I started digging into some suspicions that I've been having throughout the series, but then it still manages to throw curveballs at you, and so this book kind of did renew my interest in the series and made me remember what it was that I loved about the series in the first place. And finally, we are at my only 5-star rated book for July, and this was the best book I read all month, and probably the best, or way up there, one of the best books I've read so far this entire year, and that is Ready Player One by Ernest Cline. I read this book this month because I had drawn from my TBR jar challenge to read one of the oldest books on my GOODREADS TBR shelf. This is a YA sci-fi series about a futuristic world where basically every aspect of life is done online through virtual reality called Oasis. You can go to work there, you can go to school there, you can meet people there, everything you do it in Oasis. And the founder of Oasis has passed away, and he decided that he was going to will everything, his entire fortune and his entire enterprise, to whoever could find an Easter egg that he had hidden within this huge, massive virtual reality world. So our main character, Wade, is a teenager who lives in a trailer park. He's really in poverty. He doesn't really have any friends or family, so he thinks his only way out is to find that egg and win the fortune. And the founder of the game really loved 80s pop culture, so all of the clues that he's left behind about where his egg is, they're all like 80s references. So if you grew up in the 80s or 90s, you will probably love the references and just get a lot of nostalgic geek feelings from it. And if you aren't familiar with all the 80s references, it's okay because he does a really good job of explaining them. You may not know what he's talking about, but you'll know how it plays into the story. And one thing that I was doing while reading this book was just Googling. I was looking stuff up as I was reading it, so it felt like just a very cool interactive experience. I was absolutely not disappointed with this book. Sometimes when books are just so hyped and everybody loves them, they end up not really living up to that, but this one definitely lived up to and exceeded my expectations, and I just loved it. If you are like me and you hadn't picked it up before, you should definitely give it a shot. So this is what I read in July. Let me know if you've read any of these books and what you thought about them, and let me know what your favorite read in July was. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the comments. Goodbye!